From the front pages of Netflix to the speakers of your local ramen store, traces of Japanese anime can be found, regardless of where you live. One might pass this off as simply another part of this island nation's culture, but through lifelike characters and animated writers, Japan has been shaped by this art medium in cultural, social, and economical ways. That is why I believe anime is Japan's future. Before getting into the details of why anime plays such a big role in this island nation, one must first understand how anime got to where it is today, as well as what it exactly is. Derived from the Latin word animare, meaning to give breath to, anime is a style of Japanese film and television animation, typically aimed at adults as well as children. By this definition, any movie or show done with 2D artwork originating from Japan counts as a member of the genre. Now, unless your favorite show is Yojo Senki or any of these Studio Ghibli movies, the Second World War is likely not the first image that comes into mind when you hear the phrase anime. Despite this, that's where everything originates. In 1945, the Divine Sea Warriors made history as the first full-length anime film, commissioned by the Japanese Navy as propaganda for recruitment of the younger generation. Fortunately for the world, but perhaps unfortunately for the director, World War II ended several months after the film's release. From that point onwards, anime would be used with a single purpose: to entertain. Fast forward to the 1960s, where the arguably most influential animator came into the scene, Osamu Tezuka. As the founder of both Toei Animation and Mushi Productions, Tezuka managed to bring Japan much closer to the animation giants of the time, namely Walt Disney Studios. Under his supervision, the standard formula for what types of stories were animated slowly came into existence. Although Astro Boy came first in 1963, introducing the genre of flying robot mecha anime, it was Kimba the White Lion, the very first fully colored TV show, that really kickstarted Japan's anime scene. Followed by the first shoujo anime, or anime directed at a young female audience, Sally the Witch, as well as a shonen anime, or anime directed at a young male audience, Cyborg 009. Mushi Productions ended the decade strongly before disbanding in 1973. From that point onwards comes a wave of important shows and studios due to the rise of home television and the fall of cinema in 1970. Ashita No Joe marked the beginning of sports anime, inspiring future works like Slam Dunk and Megalo Box. Heidi, Girl of the Alps, wasn't anything particularly special in terms of its visuals or story, but got two very important names out to the world: Isao Takahata and Hayao Miyazaki. Space Battleship Yamato was a key player in bringing a serious tone to anime, letting the world know that a solid storyline was crucial to a successful show. And finally, the most well-known yet worst received show of the time, Mobile Suit Gundam. The show itself wasn't going as well as the producers wanted it to the point where the final 20 episodes were cut from production. Nevertheless, it gained a huge following not due to the anime, but rather the merchandise and figurine toys that were made. With the general formula already established, it was time for anime to take its turn into its golden age of the 80s. This era involved a lot of creative experimentation, from mixing genres like romance and action and Macross, to creating brand new types of stories that had relevance to our daily lives, like Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind did with its jarring stance on the significance of pollution. Yet, even golden ages have their ups and downs, and there's a limit to just how far you can go with art house anime until it becomes less and less of what the general public wants. This was shown in the movie Akira. Adapted from a mildly popular manga into a 2-hour movie, this sci-fi flick was the most expensive movie ever produced in Japan, largely due to the cost of the intricate special effects. However, its box office earnings turned out abysmally low, devastating the anime industry's pride and making a dent in morale as a whole. That is, of course, until the Western audience showed up. At this point, anime had reached an international following, but the market was still highly saturated by the Japanese. This all changed in 1990, where a certain show would capture the attention of not just the Eastern audience, but a large Western audience as well: Dragon Ball Z. With its simple yet lovable cast of characters, animation that was of higher quality than shows before its time, and a plot that could spin out hundreds of episodes, its popularity skyrocketed at an exponential rate. Morale was slowly improving, inspiring filmmaker Mamoru Oshii to take a dive back into the world of experimental anime and create his masterpiece, Ghost in the Shell. The post-apocalyptic cyberpunk setting completely changed how the anime industry was seen, turning their luck for the better. Not only was the movie critically acclaimed, but rose to such a high echelon of respect that it influenced big Western films such as The Matrix. Now that the economic loss of the 80s had been paid back in full, more trust and freedom was given to show creators. Creators like Hideaki Anno, writer of Neon Genesis Evangelion, a show that would go down as not only controversial, but artistic and expressive of the time's culture, pushing anime in a more cinematic direction. After that came another blur similar to the one in the 70s, but this time filled with many more shows of a much wider variety, only a small portion of which are shown on the screen now. From the 2000s onwards, anime had begun to evolve into something that didn't just have a cult following, but was widely accepted as an entertainment medium in all four corners of the world. The Japanese culture has truly gone a long way since the Second World War, and the sheer volume of anime production reflects this. Even the moment you step into the country, you're greeted with anime. The road from military propaganda to cute girls dancing isn't exactly a path that every culture around the world can follow, but the Japanese managed to pull it off. Looking at how the quality of every aspect of anime, from its story to its characters, has improved in just 50 years, gives hope to the next 50. From a purely cultural point of view, anime's impact on Japan's future has been filled with inspiration. With modern shows like the Monogatari series referencing classical Japanese literature, to Lupin III's ability to tell and retell its story in increasingly modern styles, the industry has, and hopefully will continue to, find the perfect balance between preserving the old and innovating the new. Knowing that the sea of newly released anime is as boundless as the stars in the sky, the actual quality of a show is what makes it or breaks it in terms of the impact it has in Japan, if not the world. There are 5 key areas that come into play when discussing the success of an anime as a whole: the story and plot, the setting and concept, the character and development, the art style, and finally, the music and soundtrack. All of these will be broken down in the following segment, Anime Autopsy. First comes the story and plot. A short summary or blurb can usually be found upon clicking into the title, whether on a streaming site or an anime list. But for the average anime watcher, simply reading a description isn't enough. In many cases, a story is what ties together all of the characters in a show, serving as a general long-term goal that is set up in the first few episodes and resolved in the last. The concept usually follows one of 4 types of narrative arcs. Overcoming the monster involves an individual or group being terrorized by a greater power and working towards destroying or surpassing them. This greater power can take a literal form, such as Demon Slayer's antagonist Muzan Kibutsuji, with his goal to convert all humans into demons. It can also take a conceptual form, such as moving on from death and loss in Anohana. Rags to riches in anime is usually interpreted as the growth of a character's physical power or social status over the course of many seasons. Midoriya Izuku's path from being quirkless or powerless to having one of the strongest quirks or powers of all time in Boku no Hero Academia is an example of the former. Yumiko Jabami's path from being a new student to a creme de la creme gambler in Kakegurui is an example of the latter. The final two, comedy and tragedy, are similar to their counterparts in movies or live-action shows. Comedy deals with humorous content to give the audience a laugh, like in Nichijou or Saiki K, and tragedy follows the story of a fallen hero, anti-hero, or misunderstood villain, like in Fate Zero, Death Note, and Code Geass. Both the plot and the setting combine into what is known as the genre of the show, which is the first key area that addresses the question why anime is Japan's future. The widely popular anime list website, MyAnimeList, is an online platform that documents and categorizes series, as well as the ratings that users believe the show deserves. On this site are a list of 43 different genres of anime, shown on the screen now. That totals to over 40,000 shows. Taking the top 10 anime of each genre and averaging out the scores, one can see that the most well-received anime genre is the aforementioned shonen, followed by supernatural, and finally slice of life. Though the first two shouldn't be anything too surprising after considering the history lesson in part 1, the third genre, slice of life, is what really makes a difference. This term is defined as a realistic representation of everyday experience, and has been interpreted in a wide variety of ways, from K-on's look at high school students playing music in a band, to the Tatami Galaxy's introspective take on hobbies. A quick reference back to anime's history shows almost no signs of the genre ever being mentioned, and yet for some reason it's risen to the popularity podium. One possibility is the increased docility of Japanese society after major events such as the Second World War and the stock market crash. As of the year 2020, a third world war has yet to break out, and much of Japan's focus has been placed on technological and economical advancement. However, studies such as the United Nations Happiness Index show that despite the longevity of the country being higher than the vast majority, Japan places 58th in the world for global happiness, indicating that stress and overambition significantly affect Japanese citizens. The NCBI and National Library of Medicine claim that watching a visual medium regarding calming topics such as documentaries about the Earth can have a soothing effect on viewers and improve mental health. With the rise of slice-of-life anime popularity and production, and the happiness index of the Japanese being a major area that needs to be inspected, anime has the potential to instill the sense of serenity and tranquility that this population so desperately needs and deserves. The majority of my surveyed participants ages 14 to 21 believed that the third key area was the most important: character and development. Though a strong plot is what usually carries the show, strong characters can either make or break the entertainment value and initial audience interest. From my personal experience, too many shows have succumbed to flawed character writing, such as how Emiya Shiro failed to live up to his expectations in Fate Stay Night's Unlimited Blade Works, or how 720 episodes was still not enough to fully redeem Sakura Haruno from Naruto. On the other hand, well-written characters can also bring out the full intended emotion in times where the plot isn't strong enough, like in Recreators. In an interview done with Hong Kong director Mr. C.Y. Hui, he stated that anime lets people get outside of themselves, experience something out of this world, and understand the lives of somebody else. Stepping into the shoes of another person can truly allow for an individual to see their surroundings in a completely different light. Whether the time spent with them lasts for a minute or an hour, the morals and stories that can be learned from a character can last a lifetime. The final two categories are art style and music, both of which concern the visual and auditory stimulation that is created when watching a show. Or to put it in a different sense, the direct and raw feedback that you receive after pressing the play button. Though an art major may be able to discuss how the strokes and colors of certain scenes affect the way a character is represented, and a music major may be able to pick apart the specific motifs and the way the audio creates an appropriate mood, the combination of the two creates a unique aesthetic style that can be perceived and interpreted by everybody. Two contrasting examples of this are Love is War and Scum's Wish, both of which are series that fall under the romance genre, telling the tale of two people in love. Love is War uses cartoony and exaggerated illustrations, accompanied with upbeat and celebratory music, to portray the comedic pre-engagement process. Meanwhile, Scum's Wish uses a lifelike and sketchy art style, accompanied with soft and uncomfortable guitar pieces, to highlight the dark and brooding themes of post-engagement disloyalty. Perfectly piecing together art, music, and story is no easy task, which is why as time progresses, so does the quality and expertise of animation studios, who manage to reach and go beyond expectations. With every generation's animators and musicians improving their craft, the theoretical quality of future individuals who will likely have had more primary experience from watching these shows will increase to unimaginable levels, improving not just the anime industry, but the grander occupational society of Japan as well. Pursuing your passion for an art form is already difficult enough, and yet the issue of a stable income and salary adds an even greater weight. In the case of workers in the anime industry, producing shows are no easy task, even with hundreds of people simultaneously on a single project, especially when considering all 6 of the key aspects mentioned in Part 2. With the distribution of workload being so widespread, one might stop to think of whether or not writers and animators get paid enough for the work that they do, to which the answer is, not in the past. Of course, smaller companies like Studio Bones with 69 people, who still manage to produce shows of higher quality than many big names in the industry, don't face a similar problem. However, looking at studios like A1 Pictures, with their 283 staff, brings the imbalance into the picture. If today's Japan were anything like how it used to be in the 80s or 90s, the wealth gap and underpaid staff would be more than a serious problem. It would be catastrophic. Luckily, the anime industry has found a modern solution, extracting its main revenue not from the sales of the show itself, but rather the merchandise that is created when the show is released. A survey by Statista regarding how much an anime fan, or otaku in Japan, spent on merchandise led to more than 10,000 individuals responding over the course of 3 months in 2018. As one can see from the graph on the screen, 20,000 yen, or $1,500 Hong Kong, is spent per person per annum on anime DVDs and Blu-rays, which itself is already a hefty sum. But at the very top of the graph, one can see that the money that anime makes is no match for the 47,000 yen that are spent on figurines, and 103,000 yen on pop idol merchandise. In 2017, The Hollywood Reporter announced that Japan's anime industry had grown to a record profit of $17.7 billion worldwide, considering both animated shows and movies. In 2019, Vox announced that the even greater sum of $19 billion was rising. No longer are the animators of the past having to barely live off the minimum wage. The spike in economical impact that anime has done to Japan is greater than that of any other entertainment from the country. And with the number of fans and profits going up every year, it's no surprise that the Japanese media now has the opportunity to stand up to bigger rivals in the US, UK, and China.